Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation, and today we're going to have a Rolling Stones album throwdown. We're going to have 1980s Emotional Rescue versus Rolling Stone Undercover 1983. So we've got David Boytas, we've got Ryan Gavalier, and we've got Grant Arthur. Hi guys. And welcome to this challenge.
Good evening.
Good stuff. So what we'll do is just one at a time. Maybe we'll start off with David, Ryan, Grant, finish off with me, and just tell me what's your favorite of the two and why. Discuss both, and we'll take it away. So Ryan, sorry, David, take it away.
All right. Well, I think I know why these two albums got picked in particular. They seem to be like the, as far as the fan base and the general public, the cold shower that comes after all the party and fanfare from Some Girls and Tattoo You. To be honest, I had to re-listen to these recently. I don't think I ever listened to Undercover. And I think it was because I got burnt out by when I got into the Stones. I went through the entire extensive catalog. I typically loved every 70s album. I liked Let It Bleed. I liked some stuff before that. And I remember enjoying Tattoo You. Emotional Rescue probably was the one that I listened to the least out of that entire run. And I think I just had a bit of a prejudice in my mind that a lot of 70s and 60s bands really stopped making a lot of major errors in the 80s. So as soon as I saw that album cover with the colors and stuff, I was like, oh, they're going to go into that territory. And let me just stick to, the stuff that I know that's good. I got like 10 albums here that I'm, sort of enamored with. This is enough for now. And I just stayed stuck to them. I didn't pay much attention to anything after that besides a couple of singles in the 80s and 90s. And it was a little bit of a book report or like a little audio report, album report that I had to do like this past week. As far as Emotional Rescue goes, from what I remembered of it, it was a solid album. Here's the thing about my opinion on the Stones. I don't think the Rolling Stones is not one of my favorite bands, but I consider the Rolling Stones a great band. I don't think that I don't have any issue at all with all the praise that they get and the rankings that they are on lists and stuff like that. It's not my personal favorite, but there's a lot of great material. So I definitely pay attention. And I don't really hear a lot of bad songs by the Stones. It's just sort of either something that's great or it's just decent to me. I can just listen to a lot of generic Rolling Stones and be content and pleased. The Emotional Rescue album sounds quite a bit like B-sides from Some Girls. It sounds like those are I feel those are like a pair that's like a Revolver Rubber Soul type of deal. And I think that they sound very similar as far as where the Stones were in their catalog in that period of time. I feel as though that the first opening track, Dance, I think that's a great song. I think the title track is pretty good. I don't have an issue with the falsetto. A lot of people were doing at that time, Supertramp in particular, like I love the falsetto on the Supertramp around that time. So I don't really have an issue with that. I like how the Stones take chances. They do things different. That upsets the apple cart, that upsets the fan base, but I do like that you'll have the sort of original recipe Rolling Stones that people usually put on their top of the list. And then there's a lot of fans that will go off and really appreciate some hard left turns. And this is one of those albums that I feel like it doesn't seem that much of a dramatic change from the album before it. It just seems like it's not up to par. If you have an album that you consider a 5 out of 5, and the next album, even if it's a 4.5 out of 5, it's still technically inferiority. You know what I mean? But I mean, you'd be a fool to avoid it. And I happen to dig Emotional Rescue. Sounds like one of those albums that the more I listen to it, the more it'll grow on me. Considering how you sort of get love obsessed with the great albums, and then after a while you kind of want something new and you don't have anything new from them. So you go back and start you doing your own revisionist history to see how you feel about some stuff that you might have overlooked. And that seems like what's going on with how I feel about Emotional Rescue. Undercover, I just listened to for the first time recently, and I was surprised. I don't really have any issues with it either. It seems like it could go either way as far as either an album that's just sort of there and it's not bad, or it could really grow and turn into one of those favorites because it's just them in the 80s. Like, what would you expect? They got, I can hear a little bit of the drum stuff going on that was particular in the 80s, those little bing bong boom sounds that the kids like, that's like on 90215 and everything like that. It totally sounds like it's from the 80s, but as you know, like this little science project, like what would the Stones sound like in 1983 or whatever? That's kind of what's going on here. I haven't heard Dirty. Is it Dirty Work? Is that the
Dirty Work?
Dirty Work.
Yeah. I haven't listened to that one yet. I'm not sure if that's going to continue on the same lines as this, but they're both of these albums. I feel like it's almost too soon to tell how I'm going to feel about them. They're definitely albums that I think grow on you as time goes on because of being overshadowed by the juggernauts that surround them. And I mean, does anybody know off the top of their head how many studio albums the Stones have?
It'd be mid-20s, wouldn't it?
Probably like 20.
Yeah, I would say.
Because
I think Emotional Rescue was like the 17th US album and maybe the 15th UK album.
I mean, I think their first album, just off the top of my head, was 1964. So that is a long discography. But yeah.
They here's a band competing with itself. Here's a band that has, you know, at least easily people could say 10 albums before this that are going to could be 5 out of 5. And then if this one even becomes a 4.5 out of 5, a 9 out of 10, it's still out of the top 10 list. It's the Rolling Stones. Like the people have spoken. They're there for a reason. So do I have to pick a favorite?
Yeah, I think you have to.
Okay.
So which one do you want? Which one do you prefer out of the two?
I'm gonna take the safe bet and go with Emotional Rescue just because I've spent more time with it.
Yep.
I might listen to that other album I might listen to Undercover a couple more times and be like, it's not as good, but I know at least I always think that the first song, Dance, is awesome. I think that's a great song.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I'll go with that.
All right. Thank you for that. So Emotional Rescue. Ryan, how did you go with these two this week?
All right, so I'll start this off by saying that I'm a huge Stones fan. Like, I think in a lot of ways they could be considered like the greatest hard rock or rock band of all time. I mean, obviously you have the Beatles for influence when it comes to longevity, consistency, and innovation and musicianship. I think the Stones are just absolutely brilliant. You know, they have so much energy still, more than really any other band from that era, in my opinion. But so I also really love like a lot of their discography. There's not much that I dislike, and I definitely do not dislike either of these albums by any means. I have listened to Emotional Rescue for a very, very long time. I've always been a fan of the album. Undercover is an album that I started listening to probably about 3 or 4 months ago. And I also really like that one, but I definitely have way more experience with Emotional Rescue. You know, I first heard that song probably like 10 or 12 years ago, and I liked it then. I thought it was awesome. You know, I like the groove to it, the arrangements. I really like the falsetto on it and stuff. I think it's just a really interesting, dark, kind of like disco song. But let's go through the two albums. So yeah, Dance Part 1. That's one of my all-time favorite top 10. I love the groove to it. I love the riff. Charlie Watts' drumming on this song and on this album sounds better than it might have ever again. Like he just kills it on this album, and his groove on that track is fantastic. You know, it's kind of like a dirty sounding song. So even though it's like kind of like a disco funky type song, it still has that danger of the Stones to it. And we'll come back to that danger in a little bit. But yeah, that's just a fantastic song. It's one of the ones I listen to the most by them. I mean, along with songs like Bitch or Live With Me and stuff, like those are some, like, this is a very different song than those, but it's up in that rank, in those ranks for me. Summer Romance, I really like a lot too. It's kind of got like a rock and roll, a little bit of like a punky kind of energy to it. It's a lot faster, very energetic. Kind of raw too. Like it definitely still has the danger that I really like about the Stones. Send It To Me is pretty cool song. Let Me Go I enjoy. Indian Girl's pretty good. Where the Boys Go, good song. Down the Hole is probably one of my least favorites on the album, but I still like it. Like I said, Emotional Rescue is fantastic. She's So Cold, that's a very good song. Then I love All About You. You know, you have Keith Richards singing on that song. I think it's one of his best vocal performances in the band. Because I mean, I think they're kind of hit or miss, honestly. I really like Through and Through on Voodoo Lounge. What's that one? Happy on Exile. You know, they're all good in my opinion, but I think this is one of his best of the vocal performances. I'd say that this album is pretty consistent the entire way through. I mean, I kind of like gave a little more detail about some of my favorite songs on the album, like Dance, Summer Romance, Emotional Rescue, All About You, but of more like relaxed type of songs on it. You know, it's not all dance music. It's not all like hard rockers. There's a lot of good kind of like chill acoustic tracks or like lighter tracks like that, which I really like. And I think everybody sounds fantastic on this album. You know, Bill Wyman, his bass riffs are great, especially on a song like Dance. He kills it on that one.
That's Ron Wood playing bass on that.
Oh, is it?
Oh,
We'll be discussing this here shortly.
okay.
Oh,
But yeah, that's Ronnie Wood, who is a great bass player. If you ever listen to like the Jeff Beck group stuff.
yeah.
But anyway, that's right. Go ahead, Ryan.
You are right, because he was originally a bass player, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he's killer.
Yep.
That's awesome. Good call there. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Charlie Watts is amazing the whole way through. Keith Richards.
Yep.
Ron Wood, obviously. So I really like this album a lot. It's like a solid 7.5 or 8 out of 10 for me. Now, Undercover, also a very good album in a very different way too. You know, I think these are super, super different albums. I mean, they have a little bit of dance music on both, but this one takes it to another level with its arrangements. You know, you have like weird, like little horn arrangements and stuff at times through it, kind of like some like Niles Rodgers type of stuff once in a while on it, which I really dig a lot, especially on a song like Too Much Blood. I think the arrangements on there are fantastic. The title track's a good, catchy song. You know, definitely have like your electric drums, it sounds like on that one at points. And it's a rockin' song, very poppy though. She Was Hot, I enjoy quite a bit. I actually like that song more than the title track. I think it's kind of like a Stones way. It's like new wavy blues rock. It's cool. Tie You Up, I really enjoy that one a lot too. Wanna Hold You, I enjoy mostly for like the harmonies and like the chorus and stuff vocally. I think they're definitely like an earworm almost kind of like what they did later on with a song like Mixed Emotions or something like that. Feel On Baby's pretty good. Like I said, I love Too Much Blood. That might be my favorite song on the whole album, honestly. I think the arrangements are fantastic throughout it. It's definitely very 80s and going into like a whole new realm of pop for the Stones, but I think they did it really well. Like, I'm totally fine with bands like this going into a poppier direction as long as they do it with some integrity, and the Stones did. Pretty Beat Up's a good song. Too Tough is pretty good. All the Way Down, it's a pretty good song too, and it must be hell. So like both of these albums, I don't think there's like any bad tracks on them. I think all the way through they're very listenable. There's definitely songs that are better than each other. One thing that I do really like about Undercover is the production on it, because I think that is one thing. Emotional Rescue has a dirty production at times, and I think it sounds good because it's like a Stones album that kind of gives it a danger. This one's a lot more polished sounding at times, but I think that is one thing that also kind of hurts it in a way, where this album doesn't have the same danger as this. And that's one of my favorite things about the band, like a band like the Stones, is that you kind of like feel like a sleaziness and like a dirtiness when you're hearing their music. That's not really on this as much, even though the songs are fantastic, the performances are fantastic the entire way through. I do think that that's one thing that's missing from it a little bit. So with that being said, my choice is going to be Emotional Rescue. It was a hard choice. I went back and forth over the past week or so, like listening to them both religiously. I probably honestly listened to Undercover more, but part of that is because I had to form an opinion on all the songs, because the one thing I will say that Emotional Rescue wins on is that even though all the songs on here are pretty good, I wouldn't say that all of them are memorable, or at least that there's more memorable tracks on this one. Like, there's ones where I think about the choruses on this one more. I think about the riffs. I think about, just the verses and everything in general, like little hooks and everything that will pop into my head from here. From this one, there's a few, but definitely not as much. Like, I could think of like the riff of like Undercover of the Night a little bit, and like this is more of an album that I enjoy as I'm listening to it, and then I don't really think about it as much after. So like, it's a good album, but it's probably like a 6 out of 10 for me, just because it kind of lacks the same memorability for me. But with that being said, neither of them are a bad album. I actually think they're very good albums. I think that part of the reason why they had such a bad reputation and low ratings was just kind of like an oversaturation of Stones. I mean, as we were saying before, there was like 18 albums maybe by the time that these had come out, and it was only the late 70s and early 80s at this time. So I mean, there was so much Stones. They went through so many eras, and they just came off of 2 huge hit albums. So I feel like people were probably just like a little bit sick of the Stones, honestly, at this point. Whereas like someone like me who heard these albums way after they came out, and I could just listen to them objectively, just as a band I love, and knowing that they went through a lot of different styles. And I mean, a lot of Stones albums weren't like perfect. There's a lot of really amazing Stones albums, but I think they only hit perfection a few times. So I think these are really good. And I choose Emotional Rescue.
Very good. The perfect imperfect. That's what I think about the Stones sometimes. The perfect imperfect. Hey, one question for you. Stickers or no stickers on yours? The Undercover, the album.
Me? It has the stickers on it.
Oh, so you've actually got stickers on it. Yeah, because mine actually has stickers, which is the later pressings didn't have. I don't know if it's worth anything, but yeah, just interested to know.
Yeah, I bought this one used and it had all the stickers on it.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And apparently if you take the stickers off, it's just digital shapes. So there's nothing naughty.
Well, that's no fun.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Don't take it off. Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. Don't damage it.
Don't damage it.
Don't damage it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have my original Some Girls album with all the faces on it.
Same. I have like 2 copies.
Yeah.
And I remember buying the 12-inch of Miss You on the pink vinyl.
Oh,
I really
that's
like
so-
this. Yeah, still have that. That sounds great because it takes up the whole side. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
full-size LP. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite records in my collection. If I ever get like new speakers or I get like a new turntable, I always put that one on to test it out just because it sounds so good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, well, we've got Emotional Rescue is leading 2-zip. Grant,
All
how are you
right.
going to go with this?
Well, like we were talking bit before we started recording, I was listening to this for the whole week, both records. I would say I probably listened to Emotional Rescue more. And the thing that I had with this that was troubling is that I have that whole notion in my mind that you can't forget that the peak period of the Stones had already passed. I mean, you cannot compare these to Let It Bleed, Beggar's Banquet, Exile,
What a run.
It's
What a run.
right. And, John Lennon said once, you're only going to be 25 once. And he was referring to that peak period in 65 when he was cranking out stuff. And a lot of people consider like John Lennon's best writing was like in 65, Norwegian Wood and that. So if you look at Emotional Rescue and Undercover as, I try to look at them from this point that what if these were new bands and they put these records out? Try to, evaluate them that way. And if I evaluated them that way, they're actually pretty good records. Emotional Rescue is basically Some Girls Part 2. Like we were talking about Dance Part 1. We've got a little bit of funk. I'm not sure if that's really a funk track or a disco track. It seems more funk to me, and it's got a great Ronnie Wood bass part. And I think the true stars on this record are Ron Wood and Charlie Watts. I mean, just killer. And I was listening to it, and I can just totally, when you look at the credits on this record, I mean, Ron Wood is basically playing, he's like a jack of all trades. I totally can see why they hired him for the band. What a great addition. He is kind of like the Brian Jones, because Brian Jones used to play all kinds of things too. I mean, he was a great replacement, because I think Mick Taylor just played guitar, I think, but Ronnie Wood's brilliant.
Did you think he did the heavy lifting because Keith was on drug charges? Because he was going for a lot of shit at that time, wasn't he?
And on this record, Mick Jagger's playing a lot of guitar on it. I don't know. It might be Ron Wood and Mick Jagger playing all the guitar parts. Because I think Mick's a good guitar player. He just never really plays it, Who knows? But Some Romance, I thought that was kind of a throwaway. That was not memorable. Let Me Go, kind of like The Whip Comes Down. I mean, all these songs are fine. It's just Indian Girl, like that, but it does have Nicky Hopkins on it, so I'm going to give it a bonus point because Nicky Hopkins is great. Anytime you have Nicky on a track, that helps. Where the Boys Go, kind of a bland rocker for me. Down in the Hole, we got the blues. Like I said, I don't know if I said it, but all these albums, both of these albums have so many different styles. I mean, as an album, is it a great album? I mean, it doesn't flow so well. I mean, it's just a collection of songs, which is fine. I mean, it's not like Beggar's Banquet or anything like that. Emotional Rescue is another Well, it's a classic. I mean, it's Miss You Part 2, but it also has a killer Ronnie Wood bass part. In fact, I think Ronnie Wood plays probably for the bass, all the really complicated stuff. It's Ronnie Wood.
Where's Bill?
Bill's on it.
Is
And
he being benched? Is Bill's benched?
I don't know, but Bill sounds great. Don't get me wrong. Love Bill because he really brings it on Undercover, I think. She's So Cold. That is an FM rock staple here in Columbus, Ohio. You always hear it on the FM, QFM 96 are always playing that. It's a great song. Is it up to par with like Street Fighting Man or Gimme Shelter? No, it's not, but it's okay. All About You, I think is one of the best tracks on it. I think Keith Richards sounds great. I love what he brings to the record. I don't know. The one thing that I did think about, one thing I came to me is that it seemed like the more I played this record, the more I liked it. It just kind of, I'd say it's almost as good as Some Girls. And I really like Some Girls. I think that was the last great Stones album, you know. But compared to the classic Stones, you know, you can't, because it's just pales into comparison. But I love the production. I love the way the band plays together. The band sounds great. The recording sounds wonderful. I love it. So I like Emotional Rescue. As far as Undercover, that one came out in 83, so we're 3 years later. I may need to listen to it more. But Undercover of the Night, I will say it has a great bass line from Bill Wyman. Bill Wyman's great on this record. I remember when this came out in 83 and I really liked it. Now it sounds kind of dated. The production, I'm not all that hip on. I hate the drum sound on it. And I definitely hate the drum machine on it. And I mean, it's okay. It's no, I don't know. She Was Hot though. That's classic Stones. The production on that's not bad. It's funny because you've got like Undercover of the Night that's real commercial, poppy, and then you've got She Was Hot, which is still poppy in that classic Stones sense, but the production's totally different. It doesn't sound as dated as Undercover. It's not as gimmicky. I like She Was Hot. And if I remember back in the day, I tried to look for the video online. If I remember, I thought the She Was Hot video was kind of funny because I remember Mick Jagger was doing some kind of, he'd stop in the middle, you know, and she'd go, She Was Hot. And I haven't seen it in years, but I always remembered the video was just hilarious. I'll have to find it. Every time I found it, it was banned or something or blocked. Tie You Up, dance track. Is it a dance track? I don't know. Maybe kind of dancey, but it didn't do anything for me. Wanna Hold You Up, I think, is like the third best song on the album. One of the best Keith Richards track. Catchy, sounds great, doesn't sound dated. Great. I'd love more of that. I mean, we need more Keith Richards tracks, I think. Great stuff. Feel On Baby is okay. Drum Machine's horrible. It's just a filler funk reggae track. You know, every album seems like it has to have a disco track, a funk track, a reggae track, a blues track. It's just funny. So it's just another album that's all jumbled full of styles, which is fine. Is it cohesive? No, not really. Too Much Blood. Great Bill Wyman, great build track. I don't like the horns on it. And I don't know, it's kind of in that between, is it a dance track? Is it not a dance track? The drum sound's just not good on it. I don't like it. And Pretty Beat Up filler. I hate the drum sounds on that. It's unmemorable. The rest of it just really doesn't do much for me. All the Way Down kind of reminds me of a Some Girls track. It's not too bad, but I don't know. Not my favorite. I just don't like that 80s production. If it sounded more like Emotional Rescue, I would have been much more happier. I just don't like the gimmicks. But if you looked at this compared to like other bands that come out in 83 with that kind of production, this is much better. It's not, full tilt, crappy 80s production. I could listen to this over and it doesn't bother me, other than the drum sound. And
it's because it's the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I would give it a 3 out of 5. Well, no, I'd probably give it 2.5 out of 5. And I'd give Emotional Rescue probably, I'd give it 3 out of 5. And I'd give Emotional Rescue 4 out of 5. Because I think Some Girls is 5 out of 5. Like I said, last great Stones album, everything they were a fine-tuned machine, and the production on that was great, and they're all playing well. And Emotional Rescue, like I said, they're playing well together. And the more I listen to it, the more I like it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Emotional Rescue.
Okay. Oh, well, will the broom come out for the 4-0? Let's see.
Well,
let's see. I found this really tough because I think they're two really underrated albums. And I think, as you said, David, they're in the shadow of the preceding album. Some Girls is probably, I agree with you, Grant, that's the last great Rolling Stones album. Even though Tattoo You is getting a lot of sort of critical appraisal, not quite up to that Some Girls, but I recently got the Some Girls, the double LP with the B-sides. Oh man, it's killer.
Worth getting?
Absolutely. Right. They've got so much in the Rolling Stones vault. Mick, open it up. So many decent tracks.
Yeah.
But those two albums, I listened to both. I probably listened to Undercover more. Emotional Rescue, I'm not going to go into all of the tracks like you guys. I think you've comprehensively covered it. I think Dance is a great opener. It's really funky. I think that the Emotional Rescue, Jagger was, I think, going through the Marvin Gaye, and I really like that sort of the way his vocal mannerisms in that song. I think that's really, really good. She's So Cold is a great song. Indian Girl, it's a really decent album, but it is, I think a critic said it's a good album, but it's an album of fillers. When you compare it to the previous albums like Some Girls and those earlier ones, it's not at that level. Very much a New York album in the sense that they were sort of sponges and absorbing all of the influences, the Studio 54, the funk, the disco, the Latin American, the New World. And I know that Jagger's very much into the New World music and the Latin American music, which is even more prevalent when you get into the Undercover album. So I think it's a really solid album. I like it. But with Undercover, I think, and nobody will convince me otherwise, I think Undercover of the Night is the last great Rolling Stones song. I think it's killer. I don't think it sounds dated in regards to the drums. I love that delay guitar. Ronnie Wood does the most scorching guitar riff in that song. The lyrics are, they're cutting edge lyrics. It's political corruption in Central America. I mean, this is a chart song in 1983. What other bands were doing that? And this is supposedly a pensioned, sort of classic rock band, and they're still cutting this. I think it's a great song, and I just love that delay guitar sound. And I've even got the 12-inch. I don't know if you got that one, Grant, the Undercover.
No, I don't. Look at you.
It's got the dub version and all that. I just love it. And you're right, Bill Wyman on this album, his bass lines are fantastic.
Bill's all over it.
Absolutely. But you can see that Jagger was very much into reggae, dub, new music, new world music, disco. And I heard that there was a lot of, when they were recording it, you still had Richards, he wanted it to be more of the bluesy, like Wanna Hold You. Wanna Hold You is a great song, isn't it? And I agree. It would have been nice to have more of that on the album. But it is a blend. You've got Jagger in one corner pushing into that new wave, and then you've got the Keith Richards who's trying to sort of secure it and anchor it into that more bluesy mode. She Was Hot is a great song. And it's really funny. You know that movie Shine a Light? I was looking at the song list. Two of these songs actually ended up in the song set. So you had, I think Undercover of the Night was in the bonus track. That wasn't in the movie, but She Was Hot was the third song. And I think from memory, Martin Scorsese didn't know what the song said. He goes, Jagger, please tell me what the song said is. No, I'm not telling you. And it got to the third song, She Was Hot, and Martin's going all crazy, going, oh, we didn't expect this. But this album had two songs out of that in that whole song set. I thought that was quite interesting. But She Was Hot is a really good song, and I think that's aged quite well. Too Much Blood. Again, that the lyrics are they're very dark and in a very dark, humorous way. It's about media and violence. There's a lot of political stuff going on in this album that you wouldn't get in a 1983 sort of classic rock band. Too Tough's a great song. I'm going to be contrarian. I really think Undercover is my choice. I would pick that, and I've been playing it all week, and there's a lot of earworm songs in it, simply because I think it's really pushing the boundaries. It's more adventurous, and I think that what I like is how Jagger is pushing the band in just outside the bluesy, the R&B, but going into different genres, the new wave. And you can see he was going on that journey through his solo albums, because you can see a logical step from this album to She's the Boss, where he was going into that world music. And then we had the Dirty Work, which was a bit of a disaster. And we do a separate discussion on that. But yeah, I would rate Undercover a 7.5 and maybe Emotional Rescue as a 7.
Oh. All right.
There you go. So 3-1. But both really solid albums. And when you look at their discography, for them to put this sort of high standard material compared to most bands, and I think, you know, when you were looking at classic bands compared to, say, The Who, what other bands were operating in that time frame? Were the Kings still operating?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
We're doing some stuff at this point too.
Yeah, I think still the consistency in their discography and their production, and it's just outstanding. Another thing, I just want to go back to Emotional Rescue. It was really good to see Bobby Keys, Nicky Hopkins, Ian Stewart, you know, doing session work. That really lifts it. And I think it was might have been Ian and Nicky Hopkins' last studio work with the Stones on Emotional Rescue.
I think it might be.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really classic.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
I just kind of want. Oh, you can go first.
No, go ahead, Ryan.
Go,
I just kind of wanted to piggyback off you, Grant, thing that you talked about. So, yeah, obviously with both of these records, neither of them are near the caliber of like classic Stones records.
Right.
Like Let It Bleed, Between the Buttons, you know, Goat's Head Soup, you know, all those albums. Like there's so much good stuff out there from that 60s and 70s era. But kind of also, like Peter said, it's really impressive that at this point they were still putting really good stuff out, because I mean, it was just kind of like not unheard of, but it wasn't super common. You know, you had so many of these bands trying to transition into a new era. Obviously you had some who did it really well, like Rush, or I think the beginning of the 80s they were doing really well, but there was just a lot of bands that it was kind of a disaster. But the Stones did it well, and they were kind of a band that it was risky what they did, because they were known for like this bluesy, rough, hard rock sound, and they kind of went in a whole other direction and put out some really awesome stuff with it. So it's cool that they were able to pull that off, and they pulled it off with some stuff after this too. Maybe we'll talk about some of those other albums in the future, but
Absolutely. Yeah. David?
Yeah, it's just hard for me to, I try to separate it. You know, it's hard to get over the greatness that came before.
Yeah.
But
well, yeah, I mean, I even separate an album like Black and Blue from the early catalog. Like, I love that album, but it's definitely not in the same vein as that early stuff, you know. They kind of like, I think after Mick Taylor left the band, they kind of switched into a new mode of Rolling Stones, and like a really, really awesome mode of Rolling Stones still, but different. And then also one other thing, honestly, I like Emotional Rescue more than Tattoo You. Like, I know that we kind of mentioned Tattoo You, Some Girls. Like, Some Girls is like a masterpiece, but I think Emotional Rescue stands up a little bit better than Tattoo You does.
That's a controversial one. David.
I was just gonna. Grant had answered this already before I got to answer it. He had said that the Some Girls was the last great Rolling Stones album, and I was curious to know, Peter and Ryan, do you think that the Stones have any albums that are great post Undercover?
No.
Was this the end?
I kind of like Voodoo Lounge from like '94, but it's hit or miss.
I would put it in the classification of good to very good. Steel Wheels, good, very good. Voodoo Lounge, good, very. Bridges to Babylon, good, but no, nothing great. Sorry, one word answer, but that's how I feel.
That's just them going through the motions. They became a business band that, you know, you've got back in the late 60s, they were like a real band. Then Mick Jagger kind of took over, used his economics degree, and just kind of, I don't know.
Touring entity.
More of a, yes, business. It's just total. Well, look how long they've been going. It's just about making money.
Yeah. But you get a you get a few nuggets, like even a Bigger Bang, you know, there'd be one or two tracks that are, you know, pick your interests, but no, nothing.
I mean, I think they should have stopped a long time ago. I mean, you would have looked at the Stones a lot differently if they would have stopped after Exile, I think. You know, it's like looking at the Beatles. They stopped, you know, at Abbey Road.
Yeah.
And you look at them in a different light. You know, I look at the Stones that they're just churning, you know, just churning stuff out for the heck of it.
May I just add, Grant, that I thank the Lord that they did not stop after Exile, because I really like a lot of that stuff that came afterwards.
Me too.
I mean, I'm probably being too hard on them.
I think so.
I mean, it's fine, but it's, you know, it's all right.
Well, Some Girls came out, so that you, even yourself, like you, that's still an album that would have never came out if they had stopped then.
I just think that the real band kind of died and became something else. They were still putting out good stuff, but I don't think it was like Aftermath or Between the Buttons or, you know, anything like that, where there was, I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, Grant. I mean, they definitely like changed, like, especially when you had Brian Jones in that band. I mean, all the wild stuff that he was doing, all the interesting instruments that he was playing, they added a whole other depth to the band. That's why I love albums like Between the Buttons so much. Like all those weird little arrangements and stuff on it. That's what makes those early albums. And then obviously he left and then he passed away, but like then Mick Taylor kind of came in. He kind of like brought a new light to the band and like with his amazing guitar playing and his songwriting and stuff. But I think that I respect them for how long they went on. They obviously didn't make great material the whole time. I would recommend listening to their later stuff because it's not bad by any means. I mean, it's better than what like Aerosmith has been putting out for the past 25
Good
years.
point.
Like that's
wretched.
What like
but it's funny. Funny thing you should say about Aerosmith, because when I was listening to Emotional Rescue and Undercover, I was thinking these guys just so easily play loose, but in the pocket. And Aerosmith would love to even have just that, you know. only certain bands have that, the ability to play loose and in the pocket. And Aerosmith and some of those later albums, they would love to capture that sort of organic feel that the Stones have. But personally, I'm a Taylor fan, and I think that was just the Taylor era was just magical with the Stones. But no, I truly believe that Some Girls is the last great album. But after that, you've just got to navigate through the discography, and there are gems. And as I said, these two albums, I think they're solid, they're good, and against a lot of other bands' discographies, what can you say?
Yeah,
I mean, I would never pull these out again to listen to again.
Oh.
I mean, they're okay, but I'd rather listen to the really good stuff.
I'm glad that we got the cobwebs out of those two records for you, Grant, this week.
I like them, but I wouldn't. They're not my go-tos. I mean? Everybody has that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I would pull out Emotional Rescue a lot more. I can't say Undercover I would listen to a ton more.
I agree, Ryan. I would pull out. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to sound too harsh. I always look at myself. I'm always so harsh on everything. I don't mean to be.
Yeah.
I don't try to be. Could be entertaining, but I always seems like I'm always harsh on everything.
Absolutely.
Unless it's Cheap Trick.
Yeah. Hey, before we go, anyone want to plug something? Brian, you got anything coming up on your webcast? You want to tell us about it? Anything coming up?
Yeah, so I have a channel called Ryan's Vinyl Destination. I just put a video out today. One of the fellow contrarians, Joe Beck, and we talked about our history with record collecting and about the resurgence. So I just put that out on the channel today. Make sure to like and subscribe that. Also on Facebook, I do a ton of written reviews on Ryan's Vinyl Destination on there and on Instagram. I got a ton of stuff planned in the future, some stuff about Aerosmith. I want to talk about the new Scorpions record, etc. So just check out Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, subscribe, and there will be a ton of great stuff coming out.
Good stuff. Grant, anything with you down the track?
I don't have anything to plug, but I was thinking I do have a YouTube channel that I've never used. I don't know. I may start doing music discussions.
All right.
You never know.
We'll just watch this space.
I wouldn't mind doing like 60s, 70s, 80s stuff, new wave, stuff like that. I don't know. I might.
Good stuff.
You never know.
Cool.
David, anything with you down the track or anything you want to plug?
No, I don't have any of my own stuff. I'm basically like helping out on the Contrarians and whatnot. I'm sure I'll be having discussions more with the gang around here. I do appreciate talking to you, Ryan and Grant and Peter.
It's fun.
I've seen you guys before, so
no,
hope to see you again.
Good to have you on. And yes, I think you guys have got a Contrarian chat today with Technical Ecstasy. So with the Contrarians, check that out when that gets on. And with this channel, Rock Daydream Nation, please subscribe. We've got plenty of good panel shows, but yeah, today was a lot of fun. That was good. It was good to, get out the Rolling Stones, and we've got plenty more planned in the future. So see you later, guys. That was great.
That's fun.
All the best.
Nice seeing
All right.
you.
See ya.
Later.